Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court appointed and private, marriage and relationship coaching, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one sessions in both French or English, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMB Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoachddanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our third episode of season 28 a very special guest and author of A Cup of Tea on the Commode, which is a story of a son who became his mother caregiver out of love and dedication, Mr. Mark Steven Porro. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Mark, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Dan, and I appreciate the opportunity. A quick, I guess, bio. I grew up in Ridgewood, New Jersey, and had five brothers and sisters, and my mother and father both worked full time. My dad was a chemist, mom was a proofreader for the largest newspaper in New Jersey. Then I went off to Ohio State University. And then for some reason, the acting bug bit me, and I moved out to Hollywood in 1984 and spent 28 years pursuing a very secure acting acting profession. And I still designed. I have a design degree from Ohio State, so I always designed throughout my life, and that helped put food on the table. Um, and then I've started a bunch of companies when I was out there. And I say that I started five nonprofits, and none of them were supposed to be nonprofits. So I'm an expert at nonprofits. And in 2011 is when the subject of the book all started. So I got a call from my brother. My mom was living in the house we all grew up in New Jersey, and we had a family kind of overseeing household duties and to keep her company and do grocery shopping and things like that. And she just turned 89, and it seemed like she just gave up on life. There was no medical reason, no pain. Just she was out at a senior center and just stopped responding, and they didn't know what to do. So they called my brother. He picked her up and put her to bed and called the doctor. The doctor said, we're cutting off all meds and food. She's going to transition, so let her go. Let's call hospice. And that was without the doctor visiting her or anything. So we weren't really all that happy about that. But I flew in from all the kids, six of us all flew in. We were on death watch. And that's how this whole journey started.
Wow. Okay. So, why, among all the siblings that you had, Mark, why did you or why were you assigned full responsible or caregiving to your mom?
Well, there was I'm the fifth out of the six kids. I have two older brothers, two older sisters, and one younger sister. And um, it's tough. I guess, I was there, and hospice was tending to my mom, and
Mhm.
my younger sister and I hung out with hospice because we wanted to learn how to care for our mother as much as possible for as long as she wanted to be here. We didn't know if it was going to be days or minutes or months or weeks or whatever. So we started doing that, and I believe my mom sense that her kids were there and caring, and love was returned back in the house. And I think I have a chapter in the book called "The Silent Scream," and I think she wanted some love, and she suffered from depression throughout her life, but she kept it pretty well hidden. And but the last few years, not so much. And I think that after her 89th birthday, she looked around and said, "Boy, if this is the way it's going to be, I'm out of here."
I see.
So she just kind of, I called it a semi-comatose place, but she wasn't, I don't know if that was medically correct or not, but she just didn't respond to any. She responded actually to a little touch, but she didn't speak. She barely opened her eyes. And for several weeks, she didn't eat anything and didn't request any food. And I just felt maybe it was a little guilt. Um, I also had I had a really good relationship with both of my folks. And I think that maybe because I left home early and never really moved back there.
Hmm.
And so when they would come visit me, I had them like one-on-one, which was great. And so I had a really interesting relationship with both. And I got them to open up about things that part of it was my curiosity, but also maybe my acting or whatever. I was really curious about their lives and their as singles and then how they met and all that kind of stuff. But they both had some issues, and I got them to open up because that generation really didn't. They didn't talk about pain. They
Oh.
didn't talk about their emotions. They hid all that from us, at least from their kids, and it was really it was a special thing, and I didn't think it was a hard decision for me to take it on. And I was also able. So I had no kids. I was never married. I had at that point, my acting career was on the wane because I was in my 50s and I wasn't a major star or anything. I had a snack food company that I started with my brother to honor my dad, and as something he invented in 1963 and kept it as a family snack. So that was important to me. But we just lost national distribution, and I felt I could keep it going if I could get back to LA every few months,
I see.
because at that point we had our own factory. So
Mm.
I looked around. I didn't like my mom's environment. It was no longer the welcoming, loving home that we grew up in, and I thought my mother deserved better. And so slowly but surely. I mean, the idea, I guess, was planted when this incident happened, and then slowly but surely, I started thinking about I've got to step up
I
and
see.
do something because my
Do
mom deserved better.
you think that the loss or the passing of your dad impacted your mom as why at 89 she decided that she doesn't want to live anymore because she was alone? Is that what you think has happened?
At that point, I don't think so because it had been 14 years. And I
Oh,
don't think she was ever like going, "Oh, I miss," because they had a contentious relationship for a lot of that. The last few years were great with my dad because my mom was um, pretty much his caregiver, and that was one of the reasons he got to stay out of the hospital because mom took that on, which was lovely. But a few years before he died, I took him to Italy when he turned 80, kind of as a birthday gift. We went to the little village where his father came from.
mhm.
And so, and he wasn't in great shape because he was suffering from heart disease. But he was a trooper and he wanted to go. And so we went there and I shot a documentary of our trip because I didn't want I like to record family history and I wanted the other people, especially my brothers, to not miss what we experienced there. And it was really a lovely trip. And my dad said it was one of the highlights of his life. But for
Wow.
16 days, his life was in my hands in a foreign country, and neither of us spoke Italian. I spoke a little, but he never spoke any. His father never taught him any. And so that might have been, if nothing else, it kind of set me up for caregiving.
Right.
And then a couple years later, when I got that call for him, they said he had 30 days and he actually only had 8. But I spent most of those 8 days with him, doing what I could to make his last time on earth as comfortable as possible. So I think when this happened to mom, I just felt that I really enjoyed having, I guess, taking on that responsibility. And with mom, she was going to be around a while. So this journey lasted about 3.5 years with mom. So, um, and what was lovely about it was I asked my mom's permission because I stayed with her for several weeks before I went back to LA. And then I came back a few months later and took care of her again for a couple of weeks. And during that time, her nephew, or my nephew, her grandson, was getting married at the Jersey Shore. And so I took her to the wedding and got her all dolled up. I grew up with 3 sisters with long hair, so I knew how to take care of more than just put the toilet seat down, and and got her dolled up, and she loved it. And it was her first outing since this near-death experience back in
Wow.
February, And during that trip, that's when I really kind of clinched the deal. And I asked her, I said, "You want me to come and make sure you're treated like this for the rest of your life?" And she said, "Yes." And we had an interesting interaction because I said, "First of all, we're going to have fun if I take this on. Second of all, do you trust me?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Do you understand I'll keep you healthy and safe for the rest of your life?" She says, "Yes." I says, "Well, that means I'm in charge."
Yes.
Mood completely changed. But she puckered up for a kiss. She loved, I called her a kissing bandit. So I wasn't sure if that was a sign to surrender or one wishing me luck. So I gave her a kiss and hoped for the best. And it for me, it was great. And it was a great, I think, end of life experience. Uh, I just ruined the book, didn't I? I ruined the ending. But it was a lovely way for her to go. And she was surrounded by love. And I tried to make every day special for her. And one of my goals also was to make her laugh at least once a day
Mm.
because both of my parents were pretty funny people. And fortunately, they passed that on to us. And we're all a little nutty. And especially in high stress situations, I look for the humor and we find it. And she made me laugh quite a bit too throughout this experience. So that's why I say it's my multitasking adventures of caring for mom.
Absolutely. Now, for everyone who's listening now and on the podcast and who are actually a caregiver to either their mom or wherever, any family member, um, most of them forget about self-care. Most of them forget about, eating properly, having enough sleep, putting boundaries to a certain extent because of what they can cross and not cross. How can you recommend the listeners here how to establish clear boundaries with the people that you're taking care of so they don't really abuse it?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because as I've been, let's say, promoting the book and doing lots of interviews and stuff, I ended up being really fortunate. My siblings were great. They saw how happy mom was, and and that she trusted me, and they trusted me also. So they all yielded and let me kind of take over. But I would recommend for people who are caregivers, you really have to take the breaks. Uh, uh, I knew this was going to be somewhat stressful, but I figured, I said, I'm a guy, I can handle this. But one of the things I did, one of the first things was I wanted to return dignity to her that I felt was whittled away over the years with other people that were in the house that didn't really care for her. So I bought her a new wardrobe. And if you want to cheer anybody up at any age, a new wardrobe does it. And then the house was really in need of some repair. So I wanted to return dignity to her environment. So I renovated the entire house. She was like a baby at this point, so she slept many hours of the day. And so I was able to, and what was good for not only fixing the house and making it look nice, it was good stress relief because I was banging down walls and doing all that stuff. But I knew that I needed some stress relief. So the first floor I did was the basement, which was an absolute disaster. But I put a man cave in there. I bought a rowing machine and we had a treadmill and I bought weights and I knew I needed to stay healthy as best I could. Um, but it is it's a 24/7 thing. Whether she's sleeping and sleeping comfortably, you're still wondering, is she going to be awake? Is she going to be alive when I get up?
Mhm.
So it was tough to get, I guess, really good sleep. And eventually the stress creeped up on me. And actually, she almost outlived me because I had some medical issues that were very serious that creeped up probably in year two, or yeah, I think probably in year two. And and so that's when I realized that you got to listen to the pros. There's a reason why they say on the airplane, put your oxygen mask on first before tending to your loved ones.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because the emotional, the physical, mental, and emotional strain it is present for the entire time, and that's where I thought humor was very good.
Mhm.
And if the humor doesn't work, red wine. I learned in parenting, red wine is very important.
Yes, absolutely. Now, was she still on medication when you were taking care of her to at least appease the pain if she was suffering from any pain, or did they abolish completely any medical treatment, or and that caused her to either feel comfortable, not comfortable? What was it?
Well, what was interesting is when they cut off meds, she was probably at that point maybe on a dozen medications. It's the American system.
Yes,
Don't remove, just keep adding.
yes.
Um, so she's off meds and for the like 3 weeks off food and liquids and stuff. Once we reintroduced her to eating and drinking, the meds were gone. We didn't. She had a pacemaker at this point because she had open heart surgery years earlier. We only gave her a blood thinner.
Okay, yeah.
I think that was it. And for the 3.5 years, that was about it. She suffered from again from depression, and we did have a doctor who made house calls. So it was very rare. So like 2 years in, we get a call from a nurse who says, "Would Genevieve like to have a doctor come visit?" And I said, "Sure." I played a doctor on TV, but having a pro was good. And at that point, it was tough to get her to any kind of medical appointments because I had to carry her to the car and then carry her. We had a wheelchair and they had to unfold that. So usually that did more harm than good. So when that doctor came, she actually, I think, gave her a bit of Zoloft, a low dose. So she had that temporarily, but just the heart medicine, and that was it. Oh,
Wow.
digoxin was the heart medicine.
I,
So, and that was it. So all those other, and she was fine. So good food. I cooked all the meals.
okay.
I always tried to make a good, healthy, balanced meals for her, and she had a good appetite. She lost her taste buds, but in spite of that, she still had a very particular palate. And I don't know if it was the food, the color, or the texture, but sometimes she just go, "I don't like this." I go, "You can't taste it. It's good, believe me." So
Wow.
she could be a tough cookie. But you press on and you do the best you can. But I thought that was amazing that yes, the meds, most of those were unnecessary.
I see. Now, you mentioned earlier, Mark, that she was sleeping most of the time when you were doing the renovation of the house. But was there any time of the treatment, or I would say the or you know her being there, that she started waking up more often, she started being more active, knowing that there was someone in the house taking care of her, loving her the way she was supposed to?
Well, I don't know if that changed all that much. She was a night owl because she worked for 30 years as a proofreader, the night shift
Okay.
at the Bergen Record. And so up at night, she was I at one point to try to give me some stress relief, I put a baby monitor in a room, a
Okay.
video monitor, and I would watch this video monitor up in my room, and it would have been less stressful if I just sat in her room and watched, because she was talking with somebody and fidgeting many nights, and it was fast. It was better than anything on TV, but it didn't help me get any sleep. Um,
Was
so I
dementia?
don't. Go
Was
ahead.
dementia happening?
She had a little bit of dementia. Yes, she had some very interesting visions early on. And again, I don't know who she was talking to in those hours, um, but I did. She was a tough woman because at one point she was bedridden for over a year, and I said, "Mom, we're gonna get you walking again," and she was game. So I got her up and we did, a couple feet the first day. And then she sat down in the wheelchair and she was exhausted. And the next day I said, let's keep going. She got a little further. So I actually got her with me, me holding her, keeping her steady from the bedroom to the kitchen several times a week. She was a good Catholic girl. So Sundays we took off. And but we did that for quite a while until I had my medical incident and I could no longer, keep her steady. I'm the one who needed some help at that point. But she was very willing to do that, which was great. And then I tried to keep her active. I did all the laundry and all the, all the cooking and all the other stuff. But when I did laundry, I asked her to help out and fold things. So she was folding socks and washcloths and things like that.
Oh,
We played games, card games. Even she got an iPad so we could do FaceTime when I was away, and we got her playing bingo and Angry Birds actually and stuff like that.
yes.
And then she even got to a point where she was cheating in the cards, which was very funny. So I introduced her actually to red wine. So at dinner we would have wine. Where I'm Italian, she was French and Irish though, and I liked the red wine with dinner, and she loved it. But I think it led her down a dark path because she was cheating at cards and stealing my ice cream when I left the room and stuff like that. So it's
Wow.
kind of funny.
So, when both of you were going through medical issue and you were incapacitated, who was taking care of either one of you then?
Well, my brother was the point man before I even came on board. So most of this fell on his shoulders because he hired the people that would stay in the house and he handled all her meds and finances and stuff like that. So he had a lot on his shoulders. So when I came in, he would still come in on Tuesday nights and cook for us and then get mom ready for bed, which was quite a routine. So he did that to stay in practice. So if there was an emergency, which we had one, he could jump in and take care of her.
Okay.
He didn't do it with the tender, loving care that I did, but
Cool.
it was good enough at that point. So and then when this thing happened, I was in the hospital for several months actually, and he had to hire someone new
Okay.
until I could come back, and then I was kind of as a supervisor. Then eventually, we worked like in tandem, me and this other girl.
Now, now the question is the the title of the book, A Tea in the Commode. Was she a big tea drinker? And this is
She
how.
was
Okay.
she was a coffee drinker until she was pregnant with me.
Okay.
So I felt guilty. So I've been drinking a lot of coffee since to make up for the hit to the coffee market. Yes, a cup of tea, skim milk, no sugar was her favorite drink, and so at this point, we couldn't get her in and out of the bathroom without some difficulty. So we set a commode bedside. And sometimes Mother Nature took a little longer than was comfortable for either one of us. So one day, kind of as a joke, I said, "Would you like a cup of tea while we're waiting?" And she said, "Sure." And it became a hit. She loved it, and it made the waiting more pleasant. And that just kind of arose from the when I was writing the book. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is a great title,"
Mm.
and most people think so. So a cup of tea on the commode was like a daily ritual for us.
So is that like basically your journey to care for your mom? Is it like on some form of autobiography in Ishim, or is it mostly some advice on how to keep yourself sane during the whole process of caregiving?
It's a little bit of everything. What I did is I had a history of recording family history. So whenever we had any major events, I either wrote a poem or made a short film or wrote something about it. Mainly, I think for my Hollywood experience, I'd always think in terms of screenplay, as visually, how would I see this on the big screen? Um, but with mom, again, I wasn't sure. I just wanted to record because I was privy to some really special moments and some really interesting conversations, and I didn't want my siblings at this point to miss out on this. So I just started making notes and shot videos and took a lot of photographs. And then while I was doing this, another friend of mine said she was dealing with something like this with her mother. And so I gave her some of the tips and tricks I learned from hospice, and then also some of the things that I was doing, because I think at least from my point of view, I took more of a romantic approach with mom. I wanted to make her feel pretty and feel special and stuff like that. And so my friend really got some benefit from what I shared with her. And I said, maybe a book is going to be a best way of getting this out because I don't say it's a how-to book, it's a what I did book.
Mm.
And people will learn something. My approach is probably unique compared to other caregivers. if nothing else, it's very entertaining. It is, there is some, I guess, things to learn in there, so a bit educational. But hopefully, my goal with it is to inspire others to take this on because um, it, it made me a better man. And it made me so, I guess, proud to be able to see my mom smile and the special moments that we share was just fabulous. So it was, it was a lovely experience and a lovely way for her to leave this world. And but she was a funny lady. There's some funny incidents with my siblings and with my dad and stuff. So there is the whole journey, the 3.5 year journey, but there's a lot of backstory.
Yes.
And a lot of that backstory will justify why I did what I did because
That's,
the way I was brought up. My parents were great. They led by example. They didn't like lecture us on what to do and how to care for others.
mm,
We just grew up watching them do the right thing.
that's
And
that's amazing, Mark. Now, what happens when post her passing away? Did you feel a big void because now you didn't have anyone to take care of? And how did you adapt to not be around someone who needs you all the time?
wow, yeah, I guess I did. I tried to keep busy. Even at her funeral, I guess I didn't want to sit there and I get very emotional when it comes to family and stuff. So I filmed the whole funeral and the reception and all that, and that kept me
Yeah,
distant, I think, from the real events.
I see.
And I look at that film, so I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I've never edited it. It's like, who wants to see this?
Yeah.
It's a kind of a sad thing. Um, but I didn't let it all go because I didn't want another major thing. I'd say a tip for people is I didn't want my mother to ever feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
So when I said I'm going to take this on, I am now the caregiver. So there were no lines that I didn't cross. And I mean I did everything, the wiping, the sponge bathing. And for a son, you're seeing your mother for the first time fully naked and she's 89 and you see what the years have done to her and what gravity has done to her and it's not kind. But I didn't want her to feel my uncomfortableness. So I had to bury that and because I didn't want her to feel guilty or
Yeah.
stressed or anything. So I was the caregiver, and I tried to be as cheerful as I could, and professional as I could, and so I would say if you're not comfortable taking on this role, perhaps don't do it because you don't want your loved one to feel guilty and to be angry that they're making their child have to do this. If
Mm,
you're going to take it on with an open heart and open mind and don't take anything personally. Because early on, maybe a few months in, I'm the one doing the 24/7 care and I'm wiping her butt most of the time. And I'm the only kid whose name she couldn't remember. And
oh,
she had a wicked sense of humor, so I thought she was kidding at first. But she says, "No, what do I call you?" And I said, "Name your children." She says, "Laurel, Michael, Carol, David, DC," and stumped. I,
wow.
s- so I said, "Mark," and she says, "Oh, Mark with a K? Yeah, you named me." And that was it. So I could have been angry or hurt, but I said, she's not the same woman as she was. So I wrote my name in big block letters and pasted it to the ceiling. And so when I would come in the morning, she'd be laying in bed and I'd say good morning. And she would look at me and say hi, and then go up for the visual aid and come back and say, Mark. So it was great. And after a few weeks, she had it down. So I did. But again, you could take those personally and be heartbroken, but you got to laugh.
Oh,
You
yeah,
roll with
you
the
have to laugh.
roll with it.
My mom, sometimes when she has to call me and she has to call my name, before calling my name, she has to go through all my siblings, and finally she calls my name. So, and she's only like 76, so she hasn't
Yeah,
lost her mind. But hey, you know what? I just kind of laugh at her, and she laughs
you
at me.
have to. Yeah,
You have to find the
yeah.
calming behind all that. But I will, before we conclude the podcast, where can people find your book, Mark?
If they Google a cup of tea on Commode, we're everywhere. The book is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Kobo and a lot of online stores and some brick and mortar stores all around the country. But we have a YouTube channel. I have the website, a cup of tea on the commode.org. The YouTube channel has about 180 funny teasers. We're on LinkedIn, TikTok, Pinterest.
Basically
It's
everywhere.
they'll
And
see it
I have all
everywhere.
that on the description of the podcast anyway. So at least people will be able to click and reach out directly on the Amazon or Barnes and Noble so they could actually purchase the book. But on that note, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible journey of care and compassion towards a close family member. Now, we hope that you've all enjoyed today's episode. And I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 28 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories just like the one that you listen today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Over the years, caring for a loved one doesn't happen out of obligation, but out of a deep and abiding love. With each passing day, bond grew stronger, forged through shared challenges, quiet victories, and unspoken understandings, discovering strength in patience, purpose in service, and joy in the smallest moment. Now, the long journey of caregiving for a loved one teaches people that love is most powerful when it is consistent and selfless. Though the road isn't always easy, it is rich with meaning and connection. In caring, personal healing is found, not just for the sick, but for the caregiver. Your story became a testament to the enduring power of family and the beauty that blossoms when love is lived out daily. My name is Dr. Dan Amzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.